Hello everyone, my name is Robert, but you can call me Angela Murkrow, and today we're going over our last entry for our ground-type Dynamax adventure, Zygarde. This is probably the legendary Pokemon that has given adventurers the most frustration since the release of the Crown Tundra. Zygarde is incredibly resilient and requires a thoughtful approach, and if there's one thing that I do, it's put too much thought into Pokemon games. So, let's jump in. First off, Zygarde is available in either version of the game. As long as you have access to the Crown Tundra, then you too can be lucky enough to get demolished by this legendary Pokemon. As a Dragon Ground-type Pokemon, Zygarde is weak to Dragon and Fairy type attacks, and 4 times weak to Ice. Zygarde resists Fire, Poison, and Rock type attacks, and is immune to Electric. If we're trying to pinpoint what makes Zygarde so difficult, then we should probably take a look at its ability. At the end of its turn, if Zygarde's hit points are below 50%, then it will transform into its complete form. This will also change Zygarde's stats. Most notably, its base HP will change from 108 to 216, and then Zygarde will regain some amount of health equal to the amount it added during the form change. Additionally, we'll see some changes to its special attack and speed. There will be a 10-point boost to Zygarde's special attack, but a 10-point decrease to speed. At a base 85 speed stat, we'll have a few more rental Pokemon outspeed, and that boost to special attack will only benefit Zygarde's Dragon Pulse. Zygarde's other moves are physical and don't benefit from the form change. Though I should point out that this is normally where I would mention that legendary Pokemon can have access to up to 5 moves, not Zygarde. Most other legends have access to a 5th Desperation move. According to Reddit user Mango, Zygarde uses one of its current 4 moves as the Desperation move, rather than adding a 5th attack. Land's Wrath and Thousand Arrows are both ground-type attacks that deal spread damage. Land's Wrath doesn't have any additional effects outside of damage, however, Thousand Arrows has a unique trait. This is the only ground-type move that can damage Flying-type Pokemon, Pokemon with the ability Levitate, or Pokemon under the effects of Magnet Rise. All ungrounded Pokemon will take neutral damage regardless of their secondary typing. Once damaged by Thousand Arrows, however, those Pokemon will then become grounded, including Pokemon in the semi-invulnerable turn of Fly or Bounce. And these Pokemon can be hit by other ground-type attacks for the remainder of the battle. Between these form changes, spread damage, and the ability to ignore some immunities, it should be fairly clear why Zygarde is such a threat. So how can we prepare for this battle? Generally, I like to start with more offensive options, but against Zygarde, staying alive is just as important as dealing damage. 1 or 2 Pokemon that can offer significant damage output is all you really need for Zygarde. The rest of your team should try to focus on trying to keep you and your team alive. And the best way to start us off is with the Wide Guard Pokemon. I've highlighted these Pokemon a lot in my previous ground-type adventure guides, but their utility cannot be overstated here. Wide Guard will protect you and your team from Land's Wrath and Thousand Arrows, which will also keep your team's Flying-type Pokemon off the ground. With Wide Guard, now you won't be worried about being wiped out all at once. Instead, you just need to try not to be picked off one by either Max Quake, Dragon Pulse, Max Whirlwind, Bind, or Max Strike. But we can try to make being picked off one by one even harder for Zygarde if we find any Flying, Ghost, or Fairy-type Pokemon. And preferably Pokemon that combine 2 of those types, like Drifblim, Mimikyu, and Togetic. These Pokemon also offer some decent support. Drifblim with Tailwind and Will-O-Wisp. Mimikyu's ability Disguise gives it an extra layer of protection. This makes using Curse feel a little less risky. And while the option is a little less appealing without Wide Guard, Togetic can offer Redirection. My vision for an ideal Zygarde battle would include a Pokemon with Wide Guard, Togetic, and whatever 2 Pokemon can deal damage. Wide Guard blocks Land's Wrath and Thousand Arrows, while Togetic uses Follow Me, and then ignores any and all Max Quakes, Max Whirlwinds, or Dragon Pulses. And as long as Togetic doesn't faint from Bind or Max Strike, this leaves your team's other 2 Pokemon to wail away on Zygarde unhindered. But just because it's ideal, that doesn't mean that it's likely. We could replace Togetic with either Butterfree, Clefable, or Amoonguss. Butterfree and Amoonguss can redirect with Rage Powder, though Zygarde's attack will damage Amoonguss neutrally, but Butterfree would be immune to any Max Quakes. Clefable is fairly similar. It can ignore any Dragon Pulses or Max Whirlwinds that come its way with Follow Me, but Clefable's ability Magic Guard protects it from any chip damage from Bind, so that's something, I guess. If you're looking for other defensive options, then you can try Grass or Bug types. Pokemon like Whimsicott, Trevenant, Ribombee, and Shiinotic offer an immunity to at least one of Zygarde's attacks and resists ground-type attacks. Trevenant can set up Reflect for your team, and if your team is slow, Trick Room can be useful as well. Don't underestimate Ribombee. Pollen Puff can be used to heal your allies, and Fake Tears can be amazing support for any special Ice-type attackers. At the very least, it can possibly make Ribombee's next Draining Kiss a little more effective. And then Shiinotic can switch between an aggressive and supportive role. Strength Sap can lower Zygarde's attack and regain some HP, or deal some respectable damage with Moonblast. Far from the best, but 122 to 146 is better than most other Pokemon can deal. But if damage is your goal, then these would be the 10 best Pokemon to use. If you'd like to know how I got to these numbers, then you can check the description of this video for my guidelines, and a link to the Pokemon damage calculator. And while you're down there, I would really appreciate if you hit the like button and subscribe so you can watch more of these videos. Now, it shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but the most effective moves are going to be Ice-type attacks. Most of them will be special, but at 9th and 10th place for damage output, we have Aurorus and Hitmontop. Hitmontop's triple Axle can deal between 180 and 216 points of damage. Aurorus can deal more damage with Body Slam thanks to its ability Refrigerate, so we're looking at a range of 192 to 228 points of damage. Remember, Aurorus is part Rock type, and is weak to Ground type attacks. This Pokemon wants some form of protection. It can be Wide Guard, Reflect, Coaching, Friend Guard, just anything to help mitigate damage. Otherwise, Aurorus may not be around long enough to be useful. Hitmontop, on the other hand, offers great support with Intimidate and Coaching. Moving on to 8th place, we have Celio, followed by Beartick in 7th, and then Frostlass in 6th. Beartick will often get more power out of Blizzard, and Frostlass will deal more damage with Triple Axle. Though, if Zygarde boosts its special defense or lowers your attack, you may want to consider switching to Frost Breath. Next we have Vanillish with a Blizzard that can deal 256 to 304 points of damage. Sneasel and Cinccino tied again, but this time for 3rd place. Both Pokemon have a Triple Axle with a damage range of 264 to 324. In 2nd, we have Jinx dealing 288 to 340 damage with her Ice Beam, and the Pokemon with the highest non-conditional damage output is Cryogonal. If you pick up this Pokemon, expect its Blizzard to deal between 300 and 352 points of damage. But we do have some conditional sources of damage that we can talk about. Towards the lower end of the damage output spectrum, we have Porygon once again. This is another case in which we can almost guarantee Porygon's ability download will boost its special attack. Unless stat changes are removed, Porygon will have a similar damage output as Celio, possibly dealing 204 to 240 POD. Abomasnow and Alolan Sandslash can both use Avalanche, a physical Ice-type attack that doubles in power if the user was damaged by the target that turn. Alolan Sandslash should be able to use a boosted Avalanche as long as it wasn't targeted by a Ground-type attack that turn. If Sandslash manages to do so, then you can expect a damage range of 276 to 328. Abomasnow offers a little more endurance due to its resistance to ground-type attacks, but damage output is slightly lower. Expect damage output to be similar to a Blizzard from Vanillish, roughly 256 to 304 POD. If these Pokemon go undamaged, then expect Abomasnow and Sandslash to deal damage closer to 140 or 150. There are also the Weather Ball Pokemon that provide some nice damage output if you're able to set up Hail. And even if you can't get the right weather, a number of them offer some nice defensive utility. Vaporeon can lower Zygarde's attack with Charm or reset all stat changes with Haze, though be sure to double check that field before doing so. Some teammates may not be thrilled to lose some of the boosts they received during the battle. Eldegoss, Lurantis, and Cherim resist ground-type attacks as pure grass types, while Roselia will take neutral damage due to its added poison typing. If Eldegoss doesn't have any weather to play with, then you may end up spamming Cotton Guard and Light Screen to feel marginally useful. Lurantis can at least have some fun with its Leaf Storm Contrary combo. Normally Leaf Storm would reduce the user's special attack by 2 stages, but Contrary will do the opposite. Though it may be hitting for neutral damage, if you need to wait a turn or two for the right weather to be active, then you might as well give yourself a buff in the meantime. And Cherim gives us a nice backup weather option. Now, we don't necessarily want a sunny day boosted Weather Ball, but if Hail is not going to happen, then taking advantage of Cherim's Flower Gift ability is a nice plan B. Just keep in mind, don't use a Worry Seed. It doesn't work against Zygarde, but more on that in a bit. Frostmoth will be your best source of damage output if you manage to get Hail going. And even if the weather is not in your favor, Tailwind can give your team a needed boost to speed. As a bug type, you'll take reduced damage from Land's Wrath and Thousand Arrows, and your ability Ice Scales will halve the damage from Dragon Pulse. Or you can keep an eye out for Terrain Pulse. Pokemon like Exeggutor, Palossand, and Exploud could have a field day in Misty Terrain. Granted, the easiest way to set up Misty Terrain would be with Galarian Weezing. This is where we get into some tricky territory. It's hard for me to recommend a Pokemon that is weak to Zygarde, especially considering that weakness is stapled to spread damage. But I will say that Weezing's immunity to Dragon-type moves is a nice bonus, plus Misty Terrain will reduce the power of Dragon-type moves used against grounded Pokemon. Regular Weezing, on the other hand, would be a terrible pickup. Consider this your transition into dishonorable mentions. First and foremost, weak to ground. Second, neutralizing gas does not work the way you might wish it would. And the same goes for Worry Seed, Gastro Acid, Entrainment, Skill Swap, and other moves or abilities that are meant to change or suppress abilities. Power Construct is one of the few abilities that can't be affected in this manner. This greatly reduces the viability of Pokemon like Gourgeist, Cordilli, Araquanid, Swoobat, or Bronzong, and Weezing may end up doing more harm than good to your team. Taunt is another move that you should try to avoid. Granted, you don't need to avoid every Pokemon with this move. There are some useful Pokemon with Taunt, like Whimsicott for example. Taunt can be found on Galarian Weezing, Galarian Linoone, Unpheasant, Escavalier, Hawlucha, and a few others. None of these are exactly stellar options to bring against Zygarde, but they can pass as moderately useful as long as they avoid taunting in this battle. And on a more general note, try to avoid bringing Fire, Electric, Poison, Rock, Dragon, and Steel type Pokemon. Zygarde is likely the most difficult legendary Pokemon to face in Dynamax Adventures. Bringing a Pokemon like Salazzle, Toxtricity, Carkol, Colossal, Tyrantrum, or any other Pokemon with a combination of those typings will just make it harder for you and your teammates to win. And that's pretty much what you need to know about Zygarde. If you want damage output, then do your best to find an Ice-type attacker, but try to prioritize support. Fairy-type could have some use offensively and defensively. Bug and Grass are great for resisting Zygarde's attacks. Flying type may be immune to ground type attacks, but will lose that immunity if hit by Thousand Arrows. And if you can find a Pokemon with Zygarde, do what you can to add it to your team. Avoid most Fire, Electric, Poison, Rock, and Steel type Pokemon. Attempting to change or suppress Zygarde's ability will have no effect, and the same goes for the move Taunt. Hopefully these tips will help you in your next Dynamax adventure, and feel free to share this video with others. Do you have any advice for battling Zygarde? Are there any Pokemon that I missed that you would like to recommend? What legendary Pokemon would you like me to see covered next? Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and all that fun stuff. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Angela Murkrow. I'll catch you next time.